Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of Quran for Ramadan. Today we are going to study Surah Rum, specifically verses 20 to 25. So let us start off by reciting these verses, and I'm going to also translate them for you. They are now being displayed before you. So the words are Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yukhrijul hayya min al-mayyiti wa yukhrijul mayyita min al-hayy. ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون ومن آياته أن خلقكم من تراب ثم إذا أنتم بشر تنتشرون ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. You wonder how this will happen. Do you not see that he takes out the living from the dead and the dead from the living, and once again makes the land lush green after it dies? In a similar way, you too shall be taken out. So this is a passage from Surah Rum, viewers, in which you will see that the various signs of the Almighty and His various manifestations of His power and His majesty are pointed out, so that people are able to realize that there is going to be a day of judgment in which they will be passing through a reckoning. The very first sign which is given here is given elsewhere in the Quran also, and that is that how rain revives a dead piece of land. So the Quranic words are yuhyil arda ba'da mautiha. So the Quran says this is how it will happen, that just as dead piece of land, a dead piece of land, it sprouts with vegetation, it becomes lush green after rain. Just as this happens, and it looks very impossible that it would happen, in a very similar way, people will rise on the day of judgment thinking that this is an impossible thing. And not only that, he also takes out the living from the dead, which means that when a person is born, of course, this is something, again, something of a miracle. Birth of a life is a miracle in itself. And the Quran says that this miracle, if it has taken place the first time, why would it be difficult for the Almighty to create a second time? So you can see the words used are وَكَذَلِكَ تُخْرَجُونَ. So just as God has created the first time, and just as He livens or enlivens a dead piece of land once it is showered with rain, in a very similar way, people will also come out from their graves on the day of reckoning. And then it says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ تَنْتَشِرُونَ. So one of the signs of the Almighty is that He has created you from clay, and then you become a person, who become a human being who is vibrant, who is vivacious, who is spending his life in a way that is befitting. So if this can happen, that He can create you from clay, and then once again you are able to go back in the clay, of course, when you are buried, and He's going to take you out again. So people should not express any amazement on this. So the thing which is mentioned here specifically is that our creation began from clay. The first man, of course, was created from clay, and from that onwards, the process has been continuing. Firstly, species were directly born from earth, and then, as the Quran has said elsewhere, that they were given this ability to procreate, and then from among those creatures who were given this ability to procreate, one of those were selected, who were, of course, the spirit was blown into them, and they were who are called our predecessors, Adam and Eve. So the Quran says, "Min ayatihi khalaqa lakum min anfusikum azwaja." From amongst His signs is that He has created you from yourselves, which means that He has created you in pairs, litaskunu ilayha, so that you receive comfort from them, and waja'ala bainakum mawaddatan wa rahma, and He has created love and affection between you. So once again, the thing which is pointed out here is that as individuals, we have to understand that life in our own way has fashion, it has developed in various ways, but one of the biggest blessings of the Almighty is this marriage bond which takes place between a man and a woman. And the Quran has said these words, litaskunu ilayha, so that you can find mutual comfort from one another. And not only that, it has also said, ja'ala bainakum mawaddatan wa rahma. It has created love and affection between you. So, in other words, this marriage bond, this beautiful union of two souls, if it is taken in a practical way, if spouses accommodate one another, they understand one another, they are friends to one another, they show affection, they act as confidants of one another, they encourage one another. All these traits, if they are present in a couple who get married, then this becomes bliss on earth. It is no less than heaven on earth. So, one of the most important things to realize is that this marriage bond, this union of two souls, this coming together of two individuals in itself is a blessing of the Almighty. Because before marriage, we all know that there is something which is incomplete in a woman, and there is something which is incomplete in a man. Once they come together, they find out that the completion of that incompleteness has occurred. There was something lacking, there was something missing, and that thing that was lacking and missing was then found between the two. So that love and affection, the mutual support that we get from each other, and at the same time, how spouses grow from the help of one another is something which does not need to be described. And more than that, the family which comes into being as a result of their union again is something which provides them with this comfort. And if it is taken care of in the right way, if spouses are able to understand that this marriage bond basically is a bond in which you are not going to find people who are ideal, you are going to find people who are human. And human beings, they err, they make mistakes, they have their own shortcomings, and at the same time, they have their own habits as well. So, the key word here in marriage is to accommodate one another, to adjust to one another's imperfections, to adjust to one another's shortcomings, because everyone has shortcomings and no human being is without them. So, it's not difficult for for two people to live together under one roof, because each one has his own background or her own background, and of course peculiar habits as well. So it's a question of understanding one another, it's a question of compromising, and at the same time realizing that they have come together for a greater good, and that is to find comfort from one another, and at the same time create a family which really makes a house a home, a family which is a bonding unit, a family which is the basic building block of a society. And if that family is strong, the society will be strong. And if anything is wrong with that family, that society will not be brought up on healthy lines. So it is very essential that we realize that this building block of the society is a family, and on the betterment of the family depends the betterment of the society. And this itself is dependent on how the spouses are able to adjust and accommodate with one another. So the Quran has said, "Inna fi zalika la ayatil liqaumin yatafakkarun," that there are certainly great signs in this for those who reflect. So basically, some of the signs which are apparent from this have just been referred to, and the Quran has made it a point to make us realize that these signs are no less apparent for a keen eye. Of course, if we have that vision, we will be able to understand how spouses, when they come together, they create that harmony and comfort for one another. And then وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. So some of the other signs of the Almighty are now pointed to, and that is the alternation, how the creation of day and night of heaven and earth has taken place, and how different people have different colors and they have different languages. This in itself is a great sign of the Almighty, the diversity. No two people are alike. No two people are alike. Their DNAs are different, and their own outer appearance, unless they are identical twins, which of course is a very rare phenomena. Other than that, we find there is such variety in the creation of human beings, which in itself shows the power of creativity of the Almighty. He creates and creates and creates, and no two people are alike. And if we look at the various languages which people speak on the face of this earth, it becomes amazing. It's simply mind boggling to know the number of languages and how people can easily communicate with one another. And the other people who might not be knowing this language or the language they are speaking, they might wonder in amazement what they are talking about. But it makes sense to those who understand. And not only are these languages confined to just human beings, we find languages amongst animals as well. So birds and animals and sea animals, all sorts of human forms and life forms and animal forms, they have a means to communicate. And this means of communication, the Almighty has said, it's a great sign. Said, "Inna fi zalika la ayatil lil alamin," that this is and then there are certainly signs for those who have this knowledge, and who understand what everything is all about. And before that, it is also said that the creation of the heavens and the earth is also a huge sign of the Almighty. So this huge expanse of the universe that we are talking about which we have absolutely no inkling how vast it is, and we know from various scientific phenomena that this universe is expanding every second, and the amount of expansion that is taking place and new material which is being added to it is so profound that it is beyond human knowledge and comprehension. And this whole expanse is something which bewilders us, which astounds us, but it continues to grow. And similarly, the Earth that we are living on is a planet that is just right for life. Otherwise, had the temperatures and certain other factors been different, life would not have been supported here. So, from other places in the Quran, we do know that there are 7 universes and 7 Earths, and the Quran has said that "Min al ardi mislahunna," which means that there will be another Earth, or 6 other Earths to be precise, for those 6 other heavens or 6 other paradise, 6 other universes, and they will be similar to our Earth because they will be supporting life forms, as the Quran says, but the nature of that life might not be known to us. So the Quran also gives this hint of extraterrestrial life in one of these verses, which I've also cited earlier. But the issue here, which has been specifically pointed out in a very, very comprehensive way, is this power, this majesty, this splendor of the Almighty in creating species one after the other, and in such an abundance that we are simply not able to gauge. And that is why it is said that there are signs in this for those who are endowed with knowledge. And then it says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنَامُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَابْتِغَاؤُكُمْ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ. In a similar way, your sleeping by night and day and finding his bounty are also among his signs. Surely there are many signs in this for people who listen from the ears of their hearts. So this sleeping at night and this waking up in the morning and then going on to find one's own livelihood and to do various chores, this is so suitable to the human body. We know that the body gets tired at night. It doesn't get tired in the day. The way the body gets tired at night, it shows that how beautifully it is in harmony with the elements of nature. Darkness is something which encompasses that peace in which you are able to sleep, and light is something which encompasses that opportunity that is given to you in which you are able to work and earn your livelihood. So in other words, human beings, the way they have been created, they are perfectly in union and in harmony with the elements of nature. So they generally sleep at the time when sleep is the right thing to do, because that is what we do at night. And this shows how the Almighty has created this world as something which is beneficial to us. ومن آياته يريكم البرق خوفا وطمعا وينزل من السماء ماء فيحيي به الأرض بعد موتها. And from among his signs is also that he shows you flashes of lightning which produce fear and hope as well, and rains down water from the heavens. Then he revives the land from it after it dies. Surely there are many signs in this for those who use their intellect. So once again, what is being said here is that the lightning and the thunder that we witness when there is a storm, that of course has that element of fear and also has that element of hope. Because when we want rain and there is a drought, so this lightning and thunder, it produces hope, and at the same time this also produces fear, but because lightning can strike people as well. So when rain is abundant, it showers the earth and vegetation sprouts, it becomes lush green. And once again, the same example is given that once the earth was dead, it becomes lush green after this, once it receives this huge amount of rain. And the Quran says, "Inna fi zalika la ayatin liqawmin yaqilun," that there are many signs in this for those who use their intellect. Of course, this is what the Quran is all about. It wants us to use our intellect. It wants us to reflect and to see how people and the universe around us has been put to our service. Our own family, our own brethren, our own human family is there to support us. And at the same time, whatever God has made is also there for our support. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَن تَقُومَ السَّمَاءُ وَالْأَرْضُ بِأَمْرِهِ. And from among his signs is also the heavens and the earth exist because of his command. Summa iza da'akum da'wa min al-ard iza antum takhrujun. Then when only once he will summon you to come out from the earth, you will come out as soon as you hear it. So from amongst his signs also is that these heavens and the earth, they exist because of God's command. And once this will be over, the day of judgment would arrive, and this word will disappear and go away. The Quran says that you will be summoned, and as soon as you will be summoned, you will come out of your graves, and you will now be present to be held accountable before the Almighty. So now we come to an end to these verses, and now we can open our forum for any Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad, for the great explanation of the verses. Our first question is coming from Rafia Khwaja. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Dr. Shehzad, you explained beautifully the union between a man and a woman and how God has made a man and woman for each other. The only thing I cannot understand that when God has made a man and woman for each other, why have men been allowed to marry 4 times? I do understand that our prophet was allowed in certain circumstances, but all other men are allowed to have 4 wives. So how does that fit in with what you explained just now from the Quran?
So let us view this from the Quran. If you see that the scheme of God is never that a man should marry 4 women, unless of course there is some issue or something that is amiss. Other than that, we know that when the Almighty started life on this earth, He did not create 4 Eves for Adam. He created one Adam and Eve, which means that the beauty of a family actually stems from a single husband and wife. However, there could be circumstances in which husband is allowed to marry more than one wife, and that too in certain conditions, which of course means that he has to dispense with justice between these wives, and they must not exceed 4. Of course, this is done so that a number of contingencies might be taken care of. At times, if you're able to support more than one wife for many reasons, it becomes a very big boon for the society. So it is in circumstances in which this becomes a boon does the Quran give this allowance. Remember, it is not a recommendation, it is not an obligation, it is an opportunity in which if you are able to support more than one wife, especially there are wives who might become, let's say, past the marriageable age, there could be widows, there could be other women who might need to be taken care of, and of course there could be this personal choice of a person as well. So in all such circumstances, whatever the Quran has said, it has actually given its own model that an ideal family takes place through the union of a single husband and wife, because when God started off life and on this earth, He did so through one man and one woman. So these are conditions and situations which might arise later on, as a result of which this permission has been given. And this permission is normally taken as a recommendation, which is of course certainly not the case. This is just a possibility in circumstances, and that is all. And I do think that by giving this whole opportunity, for example, in the times of Prophet Muhammad, we know that in the battles of Badr and Uhud, there were so many orphans and widows who, because of the martyrdom of their fathers and their husbands, had come into being. So, in order to make them comfortable, the Almighty said that if you marry these widows and you marry so that you can take care of these orphans, it would be really a great service to the society. So basically, polygamy was introduced in the Quran because of the fact that, of course, it was already in vogue in Arabia, and the Almighty said that you marry for various reasons. One reason could be that you also marry for the welfare of these orphans. This is how the Quran introduced it. It never recommended it in any way, nor did it make it an obligation. That is generally understood.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. There is, okay, Baran, you may go now. You may ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, my question is about the concept of soulmates, because in this verse, God tells us that He created a mate for everyone, and I presume it's like in the general sense. But you also explained that God created Eve for Adam, like a specific person for Adam. So does that mean that we all have a specific soulmate or potential soulmate that unless we
no, actually, these verses only refer to the fact that we have physical mates, and we would be very blessed if these physical mates turn out to be our soulmates, because you see, to become a soulmate is more of an accident. It's more of a circumstance which might rise. It's not an eventuality. It's not something which is bound to happen. So it's like being blessed with a person who understands you fully, and you are able to understand that person, and you share similar interests. This does not always happen, but if it does happen, then it's a big blessing. But this is not something which is going to happen with every marriage, so to speak. So it's like being said that basically men and women have been made for one another, and as physical mates of one another, they will marry one another, they'll come close to one another. And if this union is also able to bless them with such understanding that they are able to come forward in life, they are able to develop in life, they are able to understand in life, they can develop into soulmates. So this is like a target which is being given to them.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
Dr.
but does that mean that if it was not able to work out between you and somebody, that was not your soulmate then?
No, that does not mean that. If it doesn't work out, I mean, you have to try your best to make things work. And unfortunately, if things go worse, then you have the choice of separating. But that is not something I mean, it's not an objective, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Thank you, Baran. There's a question in the chat. Is the existence of the female reduced only to domestic affairs in the process of reproduction? Can she not contribute holistically in the society through other means religiously?
Well, this is a very grave misconception. It most certainly is cultural as well, and at times religious garb is also woven around it. Other than that, there is, as far as the Quran is concerned, men and women, they can pursue professional lives, they can pursue any hobby, they can do anything that they wish to. There is no difference between them as far as this is concerned. Yes, they have different responsibilities at times as a husband, as a mother, or as a wife. But other than that, as far as a wife is concerned, certainly she's not someone who is going to just remain a domestic part of husband's life, or just used for procreation maybe, or to rear children. This is a wrong and erroneous concept. Women have full authority and they have full opportunity to develop their talent, to do whatever they would like to do, as men have.
Thank you so much. But does that mean that women should give priority to their house and kids, or I mean, I'm talking in the concept of religion. Like, does
Actually,
religion?
this is something which is contingent on circumstances. You see, when you are rearing a family, a husband has a role to play, a wife has a role to play, as a father and as a mother. So it's just a question of dividing those responsibilities between one another. And that division of labor and those division of responsibilities does not entail in any way that she has to stick to her home. If those can be managed in any way, I mean, we know that what children need when they are growing up. We know what they need when they are in their adolescent age. So all these requirements, if the father and the mother are able to divide between themselves in any way that is suitable to them, that is fine with religion. Religion has not given any stereotype in this regard.
So the religion has just left it to the couple to decide.
To the discretion of the husband and wife, yes.
Thank you. Ibad Ajmal, you're next.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Shehzad, अभी आपने explain किया था. Somebody asked the question of why men are allowed to marry 4 times, and you explained that and there are certain situations in which they're allowed to. But आजकल, I think you can support orphans, or you can support widows without even marrying them. I might suggest, right? You can financially support them and you can take care of them. I've seen many people do that. So does this probably leave this explanation redundant in today's world, or is there something else?
Actually, what I was explaining was this: what the Arab custom was, that they used to marry 4, 5, 6, and 7 wives. So the Quran actually limited that and said that, well, you marry for various purposes. It did not interfere in the intent of their marriages. They could have married for any reason. So the Quran just added one thing, and it said that you may marry for various reasons, but let this one reason also be that now that these battles have taken place, and at times it becomes easier for you to support orphans by marrying their mothers. At times, so this is not always the case, but in that tribal culture, it was something that was very, very helpful. So what I was trying to make was the point that I was trying to make was that polygamy was practiced in the Arabian culture since time immemorial. what the Quran did was it just limited that multiple marriage to 4, and said that you should not, you should not even indulge in marriage for as noble a cause as helping the cause of the orphans if you are not able to be just between the wives. It was just adding this dimension to it. Other than that, it was not saying anything in this regard that you just need to marry because of helping the widows or the orphans. It just said that, well, if you're marrying for other reasons, let this one reason also be added to that list. But if you do so, then don't go beyond 4, and don't be unjust to any of your wives.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Minahil Ashraf, you're next.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Sir, as we are discussing marriages and all the things further, I wanted to ask a question. I came across this concept recently that a Muslim can marry a Christian as well. And I was a little confused that there are many religions in the Christianity as well. Some people in the Christianity says that Jesus is God also, or a son of God, which is not right according to our religion. And so I just wanted to ask that how is it possible if someone is doing shirk, so we can just marry them and all? So I'm a little confused, if you can clear that up.
Right. So if you look at these verses in which men from amongst Muslims are allowed to marry women only from among the people of the book, the reverse has not been allowed. You'll find out that this permission was given when Islam held sway in the land of Arabia and the traditions of Islam were dominant, which meant that if a person would marry a woman from among the people of the book, she would live in subservience to those traditions and would respect those traditions. So by the same token, if today that some marriage has to take place on a similar ground, then it has to be in those areas in which these traditions reign supreme. Other than that, as you have rightly said, in the ideal form, the Almighty wants this union to be between two monotheistic cultures, between two monotheistic families. And yes, we do regard Christians to be monotheists, because in spite of believing that Jesus is the Son of God, they still proclaim themselves to be monotheists. Although this is a form of deviant monotheism that we can come across, we cannot call them as polytheists because they themselves regard them to be monotheists. So the Quran has given them this latitude that anyone who calls himself to be a monotheist is regarded to be a monotheist. So primarily what we can say is that Christians are these deviant monotheists. So the condition of monotheism is fulfilled, but at the same time we have to understand that this permission is not given across the board in all cultures. Very highly recommended is that this condition should only be exercised or followed in cultures and countries in which Muslim traditions they hold sway. Because as I said, this was the last thing that was given in Arabia, the last permission that was given when Arabia had become dominatingly Muslim and all Muslim traditions had become in place. And in that situation, Christians were living in subservience to those conditions. But today, in many non-Muslim countries, where such marriages take place, this is not the case, and hence it is not a recommended thing.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Muhataram, you are next. Thank you.
Shehzad Sahab, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
This is a question regarding 401k and RRSP. I know you are aware of it, being a banker. When we keep money in 401k or RRSP in Canada, the money is held by the government till the time we start withdrawing it on our retirement. What I understood from Ghamidi Sahab was that zakat will be payable when we start withdrawing on it and on the amount that we have withdrawn, not on the total amount. Am I right?
Right, but let me clarify that I'm not a banker.
So, I mean, basically what I'm asking is that the money is there, but we will not be withdrawing in total. We'll only be withdrawing it a certain percentage, like 10% or 15%. So will we be paying zakat on the amount that we are withdrawing or on the total amount which stays there?
Once the amount comes into your possession, I mean, only then you are liable to pay zakat. So, and that too on the date of your own zakat. For example, if you withdraw that money and it gets consumed, you use it up. So of course there would be no zakat on that. But if you withdraw that money and your date of zakat arrives and you have that money in your pocket or in your bank, then of course it will be zakatable at the rate of 2.5%.
But
Thank
sir,
you, Dr. Shehzad.
sorry, Ruba, just 1 minute, because this is a little confusing. Because you need to understand that if I have a fixed deposit in my account, on that I'll be paying 2.5%. But in this case, this money stays with us, but we are not able to withdraw it in total. We will be withdrawing it slowly, like 10% or 5%, which is allowed by
I
the.
understand. So you
So
see, unless you withdraw it, unless it comes into your own use, it might be in your own. I mean, you might be owning it, but you cannot use it as you have said. So unless you are able to use it, unless it comes into your possession and you are able to use it, you are not liable to pay anything on it.
So that's what I mean. So when we'll be getting that money, 10% or 5%, at that we should be
No,
paying.
no. You see, when you get that money, what will you do with that money? Either you will consume it or you will save it up. So if you consume it, it goes. If you save it, if the date of your zakat arrives and you have that money saved up, of course you'll pay 2.5% at that time.
Sir, sorry, I'll take 1 more minute. The thing is,
So my suggestion would be that if you could take my personal number and get back to me with more details, then maybe we can have some more detailed discussion on this.
I will
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Shehzad.
share it
Thank
with
you.
me. I'll do that. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Mansoor Ahmed, you can ask your question now.
Sir, in 20th verse, creating from the clay has been mentioned as a sign.
Mhm.
Is it pointing out towards the general theory of evolution?
It is not. Evolution is something very different. If you're talking about the Darwinian theory of evolution, so that is basically, it refers to a common ancestor, and it says that species pass through one to another until, of course, human beings were born. Here, the Quran is talking about its own form of evolution, which means that initially human beings were born the way they are, but they did not have the capacity to reproduce. So they were directly being created from earth. And if you want to know more about how this creation process went on and how the Quranic theory of creation and its own nuance in evolution is, then the relevant verses of Surah Sajda, I think, which is verse 9, you please look it up. And if you're able to not understand it, then you can get back to me.
Thank you, Mansoor. Minahil, you can go on and ask your question.
So, sir, I wanted to continue forward. So, basically, is it that now that we are living in a Muslim country, we can't marry anyone who is a Christian?
So what I'm saying is, it is not recommended. I mean, it's not an ideal thing that to be have done. If you're living in a country in which Islam holds sway in the real sense, I mean, even living in a Muslim country doesn't mean that Islam does hold sway, because we know very well how living in a Muslim country is not equivalent to living in an Islamic society. So the bottom line is that basically God wants us to marry between pure monotheists. So it is only a step less if if you would like to marry a person who is a deviant monotheist, as the Christians are, I would say. But as I said, in that case too, only men have been allowed to marry amongst their women. The reverse has not been allowed for the same reason. So the recommendation is that you marry amongst your own sorts as much as possible. But however, if you are going to marry someone out of your religion, then it should only be a Christian woman with you get married, and that too in an area possibly where the traditions of Islam, they really hold sway. I mean, not just by in letter, but in spirit as well. And this is very found in
Thank
very
you.
few Muslim countries.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Rafia, you may ask your question now.
Dr. Shehzad, as you explained, the Quran has said that if a man marries 4 wives, he must be fair to all of them. Do you really think that a man can be just to all 4 wives? This is not humanly possible that a person would love all 4 wives equally. And it normally is
So
he's fond of more than one. So
let
how does
me
the Quran give this permission then?
let me clarify. The Quran has not said that you love your wife equally, because love all your wives equally, because this is humanly not possible. It has said that you have to be just to your own wives, which means that as far as their rights are concerned, like for example, maintaining them or providing them with residence or giving them time, these are the requisites of justice. Love is something which relates to one's heart, and one cannot be just in that. And the Quran has actually clarified at one place in Surah Nisa that justice in equal love is not being required. So in verse 127 of Surah Nisa, if you pick up that verse, you'll find out the Quran has answered this misconception that when it has said that justice between the wives has to be administered, it does not mean that you have to love all wives equally. It only means that you have to treat them justly in all their rights.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. We will be concluding our session over here right now. Thank you all for joining us and participating. Thank you for an enlightening session. Dr. Shehzad, until tomorrow, everyone, have a great day. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you.